Jess, all right, I wanted to
Yes.
hit record because you were about to say something.
I
Go
was about
on,
to,
say what you were gonna say.
I was gonna say, never thought that you would see yourself here 20 years later, us
Yeah,
talking
right.
about life and things that have happened.
Well, and also speaking of 20 years, how long have we known each other? I've known you for I mean we didn't go to elementary school, but we went to
No,
middle
middle
school for
school.
sure,
So
right?
since seventh grade. So 25 years ago. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think I no because well yeah, I guess because middle school because
You would be 13
yeah,
and
did you go to the high school reunion?
no,
Me neither. I guess it's
no, I'm a party pooper.
why in what way?
I just don't like I'm not somebody that enjoys like talking the same conversation with people, the same like different people. It's draining to me, like overstimulating.
Small talk.
Yeah, a lot of small talk.
Yeah. Are you an introvert?
I'm actually an extrovert, but I don't like the fake small talk where it's like you're gonna tell them everything that you're doing. And because I think that's why we have social media now, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's
So
connected on social media.
yeah. So I just get that kind of stuff I get, or like in social situations, if I'm at the grocery store and I'm like focusing on like picking
Yeah.
the best onion, and then like
Yeah.
someone from school comes by, I'm like, do, 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 just because I like don't have the energy to give that because I need to finish my grocery
Yeah,
list.
and it's not necessarily against anything against the person.
No,
It's
never.
it's
It
simply
never is.
an
It's
energy thing.
it's a me thing. Yeah, it's me and my inner like I have a one track focus mind on things.
I relate to what you're saying more in a sense of it is really draining to
Hmm.
have small talk that's not of substance. What are you doing these days?
Right.
Oh, what do you do for work? Like that type of
Yeah.
stuff that doesn't
Yeah.
typically lead anywhere. They're just these formalities. I also, not that I can't do it, but that stuff really drains me in
Yeah.
terms of I am an introvert in that
Yeah.
I do tend to avoid those situations if I can.
Right.
Sometimes you
And like
can't.
and if you're my friend, like we have like constant conversation, we hang out, and I am an extrovert. I love to go out to eat. I like to try new things. I like to work out. I like to go to Target, like with my friends. Like I'm all about that. But when we're not like you're not in my energy circle, then I'm kind of like more closed off, or like I just don't have the energy in that moment to do that.
How would you
So
explain yourself in terms of what group did you fit into in high school?
I was just having this conversation with somebody the other
Who?
day. Carrie, Carrie Meyer.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Okay,
still
cool.
friends with her. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Name drop.
No, that's cool because a lot of us are still friends with people that we went
Yeah.
to went to
But we
high
were
school with.
talking about how, like, because she made a comment, like, well, I wasn't in the cool group. Like, you did that because you were in the cool group. And I was like, I think about that sometimes. And I'm like, I was friends with everybody.
Mhm.
Like, I never felt like during that time that I was like in a group. I never really felt like I like was designated to certain people. Like, I hung out with a lot of different groups of people.
Yeah.
Like,
Same here. I
yeah.
I was thinking about that recently too because I think that just by the times you kind of came up with like a group of just
Hmm.
like your core group of friends, like the core group of friends that were my friends all the way back to elementary school, they're still my friends now. And we didn't really fit into any form of like a group. When I think of groups, I think of like, okay, you have the jocks. Well, we
Yeah.
certainly
Yeah.
didn't fit
Same.
into that group.
I
You have
know.
like the geeks. Well, we
Hmm.
might have had a geek in the group, but we didn't fall into that group.
Yeah.
It's not like we were a bunch of band kids running around with calculators and pocket
Right.
protectors.
Right.
These are all just stereotypes. You have the
Right.
goth.
Yeah.
Maybe one of us fell into one of these. So it was kind of like we were just like this melting pot of like
Yeah.
everything. And we did kind of hang out with everyone. My house was kind of a party house, so there would be all
Yeah.
different
Oh yeah,
groups.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny looking back now, just because just how much time has gone by when you think about it. And I just think about some of the stuff that I did in high school, some of the things that were important, some of the recklessness. I think I even sent you a picture on
Yes.
Instagram of an
Yeah.
old Polaroid that I
Yeah.
found, and
That's
you were in
crazy.
it, and I was
Yeah.
like doing some stunt,
Yeah.
and it was just, I think we were probably either sophomores or juniors in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, probably sophomores.
Yes.
I
And
think that's when
thinking back, it's just like, wow, it's hard to believe like how much time has
oh my gosh, yeah.
actually
It's
gone.
crazy. It's
Right,
crazy.
right.
And my husband's 8 years older than me, and it's like funny to hear his stories. And like, I'm like, oh, I was like 12 when that happened. I'm like, it just feels so weird to be old, like to be older. Like, I don't really feel like everything that I've been through in my 30s, it's like I feel still like so young. I don't know. It's hard to,
That's good though, right? Like,
yeah,
isn't that a
yeah,
good
for
thing?
sure.
I mean, so I also feel young, which is
Yeah,
weird because I'm told that this is the time I'm not supposed to feel young.
right. Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the
yeah,
time where, and you'll even maybe look at somebody else that was in the same age bracket, and you're like, how are we the same
yes,
age? Like,
yes,
that doesn't even make
all the
sense.
time,
What do you think
all
that
the
is? Do you think
time.
that's just lifestyle,
I
or
think it's
just
just lifestyle, but I also think it's like a lot of like your brain. It's like the way you think of yourself, the way that you think of what you're capable of. I think that that all plays a role. And I also think that like having a really positive outlook on something and then being like a Debbie Downer all the time is
Mhm.
going being sad, like it's okay to be sad. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but being like in your sadness and sitting in it and like never and just collecting all the negative and sad things and never getting out of that, it ages you. I just think it ages you.
It's energy, right? That
Mm-hmm.
energy, that negative energy, that doesn't just go nowhere.
No,
When you
no.
internalize all that energy, whatever you're taking in, that
Right,
stores somewhere. That stores
right.
in your brain, that stores in your cells. That's You're going to,
Your body remembers that. It like
it sure
takes
does.
notes. Yeah, definitely. And it's hard to, it's crazy to think that that ages you, but I look at even like before I had breast cancer, like that, I look at pictures of myself and I'm like, I looked so tired. I looked drained. My skin looked awful. And I was just like pushing myself during that time and I wasn't sleeping well. And now these aren't symptoms of breast cancer, but they had to have like played some sort of role, you know, because my body was like internally fighting something I didn't know that was happening. And then once now looking at pictures of myself, I'm like, I look like I took that cancer out of my body and I look my age or younger now. like it looks like it like took all that negative energy out of me. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So you're not just talking right now, by the way. You're speaking from such a point of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and you truly do have perspective on things. So you're not just saying these things, you're talking from a completely different place that most people just
Yeah,
cannot,
definitely.
have simply never been to, which is why I thought about you immediately for this topic,
Mm-hmm.
because we are going to be talking about perspective. And for anyone that doesn't know, for my audience, obviously people we went to school with and mutual friends, they're going to know who you are. But Jess, we've been connected through life. I mean, we've been
Mm-hmm.
connected, online, but also we went to school, we grew up together. And you are a content creator. You do put out inspirational content. You speak about your experiences with breast cancer. You're an owner of Millie Byrd, which is hand dyed clothing, which we'll talk
Yeah.
about. But I really wanted to sit down get some face-to-face time with you and talk about your experience with breast cancer and how you got through it, because I do think, look, we all know somebody who has cancer or has
Yeah,
had cancer or who has
definitely.
passed from cancer. I can't think
Right.
of one person that doesn't know somebody or have someone in their family, a close friend or otherwise, that
Right.
this is really, really common. So let's talk about it. I'd love to know how did things start for you, and really how you got through this
Yeah.
experience.
So I actually do self breast exams and I found a lump and I and full transparency, I sat on it for a minute because I was thinking that it was like I'm way too young to have breast
When
cancer.
was this? About how long
Um,
ago?
it'll be 2 years in February.
Okay.
So I found the lump in January or December, and then I made my doctor's appointment and got my biopsy in January, and then I was diagnosed February 2 years ago, so 2021,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
wow, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Or 22 it would be because we're going to 2024. So
Mm-hmm.
me and my math. Um, but certain things were happening to me in the moment too, where I was like, okay, I have to get this checked out. I was getting sick a lot. I was having a really hard time just to like fight a cold. I was constantly fatigued, like just I just didn't feel good. And I would go to the doctor and my labs would always be normal. And then I was just like something just intuitively didn't feel right. Did a self breast exam, found it, still sat on it because I thought it was my hormones. And just like thinking I'm too young to have breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer because at that
Mm-hmm.
point I was 36. Um, and I finally made the appointment and then saw the doctor. And even when I went to go get the see my doctor and they're doing the exam, she couldn't feel my lump. So
You
she
could
was
feel it, but
telling,
she could not feel it.
yeah, because what happens, like we have breast tissue, and when I was laying flat, it was like hiding, because we have to lay on our backs when we get breast exams at the doctor's office, which is so stupid, FYI. But um, so she still sent me for my mammogram and stuff, and then I got the awful news that I had breast cancer. So in that moment, like the first thing that I did was I was like Googling, like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? What am I going to need to do? Which is your worst enemy during that time.
Well, Google is your worst enemy when you don't have cancer, because
Yeah,
then you
that's
do have
true.
cancer. It's
That's
already telling
true.
you got everything.
That's true. You're like have a back
Yeah.
spasm and your back is broken and you're not going to be able to walk. And yeah, that's
Exactly.
definitely.
Yeah,
So
Dr. Google is ruthless.
yeah. And I went to the imaging center that I went to. The girl that works there like has been really good friends with my husband, and I've known her for years because of that. And she was able to like, okay, these are the doctors that you need to see. Because in that moment when you like find out that news, you're like, I don't know anything about this, and I don't know who I'm supposed. What am I supposed to do next? Like, what's my next thing? So she kind of like told me which doctors to see and which oncologists, which was like a huge help because I am like an avid researcher and commitment freak. Like when I'm seeing a new person, I have to like read all the reviews and like, so I just
Yeah.
needed somebody to tell me what to do in that moment because you're like in shock.
Yeah.
Um, but I ended up, so my mass was just under 2 centimeters. So, cancer, they stage you. So I ended up being stage one because it was under 2 centimeters and it didn't go to my lymph node yet.
Sure.
So the staging is really just like where, like, what your treatment's going to look like, pretty much. So I ended up having for my treatment plan a single mastectomy, and they it was like all over my breast, so I wasn't able to just like remove the tumor. Um, so it moved very quickly.
It
So
sounds like it moved quickly. Like, are you talking
yeah,
weeks or
I'm
days?
talking like within months. Like it was
Okay.
like within a month. It was like,
Okay.
you have cancer. This is the treatment. You have to get the mastectomy because it's all over, and your surgery is in 3 weeks. And then you're like, you have no time to think. And I'm more of like a holistic person. I'm very healthy.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
um
Okay.
so like I didn't even have time to like, is there another option, or
Right.
is this what I want to do? Or at that point I just like, I just want this cancer out of me.
Yeah.
Like I just need this out of me. um
When you get that diagnosis, to, you know, life problems like job and flat
yeah,
tire and the air conditioner is broken, just those things just become so insignificant,
they
I have
do
to
not.
imagine.
Yeah, there is times where like, because with my work, like it's like, I don't care that your child is having a tantrum. Like I have cancer, you get, in the beginning, I feel like you get very, it's like a grieving process. Like in the beginning, you're angry. Like I was mad. I was disappointed in myself for like getting cancer as if it was my
Really.
fault. I was like, like I have what, like my female body part, like couldn't even just exist without getting cancer. Like it just was like,
That's
it was,
interesting that you were
yeah, yeah,
blaming yourself, because that's something that can't be controlled.
right.
Right.
Well,
I mean, it's the lottery. Like,
I know,
it's just random. Like,
I know. But you sit there and you're like, okay, what did I do wrong?
mm,
Like, what did I put in my body to get this? Like, what could I have done differently? Um, and I like went down that rabbit hole in the beginning. And then that's when I realized, like, okay, so like I can take this as like, this is gonna be my new identity. And I'm just gonna live in this like mentality of like, why woo is me? Like, why did I have to get breast cancer? Or I can like move through the emotions and work through everything that I'm feeling, like own it and move on, own it and move on, and then make this something that's like positive, and make this something that like, okay, well, if I just have to get through this, and then I can do this, and then I can get through that, and then I can do this. So I eventually just chose to be like positive.
was that
And
in your DNA beforehand? Like, were you typically like that, or were you forced to take a deep look at things and switch your perspective like that? Like, did you typically look at things very positively before this experience, or did this kind of shift that?
no, this shifted it definitely. I
Okay.
think before, I mean, this wasn't like kind of, I had like a lot of health things happen that I like took charge of my health. And when I was in my 20s, because we didn't take care of ourselves when I didn't take care of myself when I was growing up. I was partying, I was
Mm-hmm.
eating like crap. Um, and I had like stomach issues, found out I had a gluten allergy. I had cervical cancer that was like isolated. So it was like in situ. I just had to get it removed, and I didn't need any
When
further
was that?
treatment in my early 20s.
Okay. So you
And
caught
so
it right
then,
away?
oh yeah, right. It was
Okay.
very like quick, get it out. But I had complications from that surgery. I just had all these things that like, I think that's why I initially blamed myself, because I had all these things that happened to me when I was younger. And then I like took charge. I started eating healthy. I started exercising. I started just like being mindful, meditating, Reiki, like all those natural holistic things. And then I got breast cancer. So it was
Yeah.
like,
Isn't
and
it
a lot of,
interesting? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Isn't it interesting that it kind of, as we get older, these type of things, our health,
Right.
our skin, our heart, whatever, all
Hmm.
parts of us, our organs, these things start. we didn't even think about them when we were younger. Like you just
No.
kind of go out and
Right.
it's not a thought because things seem so far away.
Yes. Oh
It
yeah.
seems like you're not that thought of, 40 or 30 or even
Not even a
21 when
thought.
you're younger
Yeah.
seems so tremendously far away
Hmm.
that you're not even going to have to start thinking about these things just until forever. And
Right.
then as time goes on, now it's like, what ingredients are in this? What's in this
Right.
soap? What's
Yes.
in what's in this
Yeah.
food?
Y-
What's on the pan, the chemicals that are going to go into my body. So we start,
Yes.
I think it's the natural order of things. I think, like,
Right.
to use an example, like I remember like people would go tanning and
Yes.
right, like they would go tanning, and then could you even imagine going tanning?
No.
Like how could, like, if you think about these
People would
things, like
be
how
like
did people
with
do
the
these
you
things?
put the stars on your body and you'd have that like star like to see
You
how
know what's
dark you
funny about
are.
that too is you can kind of define the times by looking at just styles and the way that people looked. Like I think our time when we were growing up, like everyone was tan. All the girls were so orange, and the
So
hair was
orange.
the hair was bright, like almost white. Like it was
Yeah,
just bright
bleach.
blonde, and the
Yeah.
skin was just it's so
Yes.
tan. Like you could spot it out a mile away. You're like, oh, that was early 2000s.
Yep, exactly. But that's what you don't like. I, at an early age though, like decided to like be healthy. Like it was like probably 27, 28, 29. I'd like changed my eating. I'd be like, I'm gonna be vegan. I'm gonna do this. And then
Yeah.
so I think that's why I was so like mad at myself. And then also it didn't help like when people found out I had cancer, they're like, "You have cancer? Like you're so the healthiest person I know." And it's like, well, that makes me feel worse,
But
you
isn't that
know?
how it works out though? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Like it
Oh,
just
no,
doesn't
it doesn't.
matter. Like
It does not.
it's throw a rock. Like that's the thing that's
Exactly.
scary about it. It doesn't matter. Like you
It
could do
doesn't.
everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Yeah.
And
And
it's like getting hit by a car,
it's
Like
not a one size fits all either. Like
right.
what works for one person might not work for the other. And I think too, like when you have that cancer diagnosis, it's almost like people see their own mortality in you. So they look at you and they pity you because you're the one with cancer and you're young. So like under 40 and getting cancer is young. And everybody has an opinion too, and they like
Oh
nitpick at
my
what you're
God, that
doing.
sounds so annoying.
Yeah,
Can you
it is.
give some example? I would be curious to know.
Oh, I would love to.
This is a two-part question.
Okay.
How did people treat you once they found out you had cancer? And then also, was there an example of people like giving their unsolicited advice and making comments, stuff like that, like
Yeah.
something that's just like super over the top obnoxious? I'd love to hear
Yes, all the
both
time.
examples.
So I felt like people were really supportive when I had cancer. It was kind of like that was something that was hard for me because I've always been somebody that's been super hyper independent and I don't need help from anybody. And this was the first time that I was like forced to be like, okay, I'm going to lean into all these people that are helping. And people were coming out of the woodwork. I mean, like people that I haven't talked to in years were messaging me and,
Yeah, I bet.
um, yeah, doing like sending me things, books and money to help because at that point my husband's business was closing and I was going to be off work. So we went from having a two house income to having no income because I didn't get paid for my FMLA either. So that was all like super helpful and nice. Um, but also like that support left as quickly as it came. So it was like, oh, I have the mastectomy. Okay, you're good now. You're cancer free. And then it was kind of like those people were like, gone. So it
Mhm.
was like you're overwhelmed with support at the same time. It's kind of like lonely, honestly. But that's what forced me to like look inward. That's what
Was
was
it hard to
helpful.
accept the help, or were you more like
I
gracious?
like I was gracious and I was like very grounded with it. Like I was like, I'm gonna lean into these people and I'm gonna understand that they're just gonna be here for like this moment and then I probably won't speak to them again. Cause there's a lot of people that like old friends that came into my life and like I haven't seen them since, you
Did
know.
it force you to reconnect with anyone? Did anyone stay on? Or did pretty much everyone? Because I could see something
Everybody,
like everyone they
yeah,
they
everybody,
came in and then dipped
yeah.
out.
They're like, Jess has cancer. Here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go. And then it's like, okay, she's good now. See ya. Which is okay. I think in the moment it was like, God, that sucks. That's kind of shitty. That's lonely. But like looking back now, like I think sometimes we need certain things from people and then like we can move on from that. We don't have to like keep these people in our lives just because of this like one thing that happened. You know, I think I appreciate it more now than I did in the moment.
And if they were
Like,
meant to be in your life, they would have stayed. I think the people that
right,
are going to stay are going to stay
right,
regardless.
right.
So I guess that's
Yeah,
what makes close friends, sisters, brothers.
yeah,
When I
yeah,
think about my friends, I got friends, but are they friends that I would call if things went really bad? There are some that I would. Those are my
right,
brothers. Those are my brothers.
right.
But I have close friends that are like,
Yeah,
hey, you want to go do something like fun or whatever? Yeah. But at the same time, I wouldn't, maybe lean on them if something really bad was happening. So it's
right,
good to have friends and acquaintances, and I've
right.
never heard
Yeah,
anyone say a bad thing about you. That's for
yeah. Well,
sure.
thank you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then like you have sisters, like the
right.
ones that
Yeah.
are ride or die.
The ride or dies. Yeah. Which like I'm still friends with those people. I think
Yeah.
too, like I I changed a lot from this situation. So like when you're growing and you're changing and like those some of those people kind of just like fall off because you're not adding value to each other's life anymore. And that's kind of what happened. I mean, I see things, I'm very intentional now, and I wasn't like that before. And I'm very focused on like what I enjoy, what I like. Like I did a post today about like you are in control of like your own happiness. You're in control of bringing what makes you happy into your life. You're in control of how that looks. And that was like my entire year. I've done everything because of having breast cancer that I have ever wanted to do.
Yeah, your
Achieve.
lens, like the lens that you see life through is so different than
Yeah.
everyone else's. It nobody can see things the way you do,
Hmm.
even if they try, because they haven't gone through something like this. When you're dealing
Right.
with your health,
Right.
nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Once you have
That's
a health scare, and it could
hmm
be something, it doesn't have to be cancer, it could be something else like an autoimmune disease, any
yeah.
disease
Yeah.
that is going to shift the way that you look at things. And the way I remember, well, before I get into this story, because I have a story for you, I do want to know, what was the like
Oh, the
unsolicited,
unsolicited. Oh yes.
obnoxious comments, like how was that experience and how frequently did that happen? Because that would drive me fucking crazy.
It drove me crazy. It drove me
Yeah,
crazy.
that's just total
I
lack of
have had,
self-awareness on someone's part.
I mean, I have had, it's the toxic positivity. Like, it's, and I did a post about that. And that's another thing that I did. I like leaned into social media. Like, my TikTok is like me being passive aggressive breast cancer survivor. Like, I took everything that really happened to me and I made it into a TikTok. So you should check that out at
Really?
some
I
point.
don't, I've never been on TikTok. I've never downloaded
Yeah.
it. I haven't been on there.
Yeah,
What's
I haven't posted in a long time, but like during this whole journey, because toxic positivity, people just
explain
say
that? Explain toxic positivity.
it's like giving a simple, like you should just be positive because worse things can happen to you. It's like giving the simple solution of being positive, and it will just like completely change what is happening to you. You know, like, well, at least it's stage one. It could have been worse.
Yeah, that's
And it's
just
like,
undermining things. Like everyone,
for
you're
sure.
entitled. I remember I was I was going to therapy, and my therapist was in Vietnam when he was my age. This was when I was a little bit younger. And
Hmm.
I remember telling him, I was like, I can't talk to you about my problems in good conscience. I feel bad. I feel
Yeah.
I feel bad when I'm speaking to you. I'm having a difficult time opening up to you because I just think about when you were my age, you were avoiding bombs and you
Right.
were a medic in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And he said, first off, that's very thoughtful of you. He said, but everyone is entitled to their problems. No matter how no matter what your life
Yeah.
is, no matter what scenario you're in, everyone has problems and you are entitled to your problems. And just because, yeah, they're not, you're not avoiding war, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to have problems. And so he
Right.
made me feel a little bit more comfortable discussing some of the things I
Yeah.
was going through with him. But undermining someone's problems, you could do that about anything. I
Yeah. Like
mean,
if you were
at
just
what point?
positive
Yeah,
when
you could do that about every
it,
single thing.
yeah.
At what point is a problem then? It's
Right.
okay to
And
have problems.
I also think too, like, to complain about having a problem. So like if I'm complaining about my recovery from my surgery, it's not because I'm being negative. It's because I'm feeling things and I want to talk about it. And I think that that can be, some people get very uncomfortable with that. I had people tell me I should go vegan, look into why my breast not eat sugar, like all of those ideas of like, yes, does sugar feed cancer? Totally does. But there's also like my cancer was hormonal. So it's like, it's very different than like me having stomach cancer
You
where
know what
I'm,
that reminds me of? That the
hmm,
scariest part of humanity is when you go to a post, like go to a viral post on Instagram and look at the
hmm,
comments. You're just
yeah.
like, I'm never leaving the house and interacting with another human being. They are
Yeah.
out there. These people
Yeah.
are out there. The thought to comment these things or to say these
Yeah.
things is so, like I said, it's lack of self-awareness. It's super, it's
Yeah.
just so obnoxious.
Yeah.
But that reminds me of like the comment section of a viral post. If you go to
Yes.
that comment section and there's people fighting within the fighting, like someone will say something and then there'll be a thread there and they're
People will
arguing.
like defend the people that posted it when there's like a troll. One of my Instagram posts went viral and the people that were like the things they were saying, I was like, people were like, it was me and my friend in our bathing suits, and somebody was like, oh, big titties and little titties
Oh
together.
my
Like
God.
they were just making all these comments, making fun of my tattoos. Like it's just like, but then people would comment under and like defend me when they don't even know me. It's like,
There's
like,
layers to it. There's
yeah,
layers
it's
to it.
like,
And it doesn't even have to be, it could be something as simple as someone is baking a pie
yeah,
for Christmas and
yeah,
they're doing the ingredients and you go to the comment section and it's just nasty comments and
yeah,
fighting and then they're arguing
yeah,
about the ingredients. It doesn't matter. I think it's
yeah.
just human nature,
It
unfortunately.
definitely is. Well, we feel like humans feel like the way that you can relate to somebody too is like offering some sort of advice or like telling a story of like what your second cousin's sister did when she had cancer. You
That
know,
sounds
like it's
pretty specific, Jess. Sounds like you
but
might
it's
have
like,
heard that one.
yeah, I did. Or it's like, oh yeah, my great great aunt had breast cancer at
Yeah.
60. She died, you know, and it's like,
Have a
okay,
great
well,
day.
60 and 36 are very different. And
Yeah, you're
but
right.
like,
That's a really good way of looking at it.
yeah, I think people just think that they can relate. Like I think that people get very uncomfortable when things are something they're not used to, and they try to relate in a way that makes it a little awkward. And I just, I really paid attention to that kind of stuff throughout my entire journey of breast cancer. And I like made post, that's what I made posts about because it was like to educate other people to like when somebody is going through something really hard and traumatic, you don't have to always offer advice. Like you just really need to hold space and listen to them. And if you feel so compelled to give advice, ask them. Like, do you need me to hold space for you? Or do you need advice right now? I do that all the time to my friends. I say that all the time.
I
Like,
think
what do
that's
you need
good
from
for
me?
even like relationships, because I remember my my initial instincts are like problem solve. So
Yes.
if someone
Yes.
comes to me with a problem,
Hmm.
I want to solve that problem. Like I
Yeah.
want to figure
We're
out how to get
fixers
it. We're
by human
fixers.
nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just want to talk, and that talking and getting it out, like you got to feel it to heal it. Sometimes just that experience of talking, they're not
It's
necessarily
enough.
looking for advice or problem solving. They're just looking for you to, like you said, be a space to listen. And that
Right.
is in and of itself solving a problem. So that's really good advice
Yeah.
that you're saying is, are
Yeah.
you interested in problem solving? Do you want help solving this problem, or would you just like me to
Right.
listen?
You just need to vent to me because
Yeah.
that's okay too. You
Yeah.
know, like, and I think too, when we try to fix other people's problems, we take on that problem. And then we get irritated that they're not following our advice. And because I'm not going to follow, I am the one with breast cancer. I'm not going to follow your advice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. You know, I don't care what you have to say. I'm like, I'm going to do what I feel intuitively is going
Right.
to be like good for me.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, that's how it's going to go.
And that's the
And
lack of awareness on their part. They're thinking
yeah,
that you're going to go and do these things. I have a real hard time with this with diet and nutrition, even because people will come up to me. There's something about being in this field that people have to talk to you about their diet. They have to. They
yeah,
can't help it. They cannot help it. So I don't bring it up. Like I don't want to talk about it. I don't, because there's so much nuance involved. There's so much context involved. I have to know so much about you to give you proper advice. There's a lot of what ifs or if this,
yeah,
there's a lot that goes into it. So I try to avoid talking about it, because at the end of the day, I can't think of one just casual conversation that I've been having where the person has actually gone and implemented.
hmm,
And so that part can be
yeah,
exhausting, because you get stuck in these conversations and they'll say something that maybe I'm like, okay, so like now I have to say something because what they're
yeah,
doing is just wrong for what they're going for. And at least I can get, nudge them in the right direction, or at least put this on their radar. But they'll talk to you about diet,
yeah.
nutrition, and then I'll give my advice,
And then we'll
and
listen.
then it's like in one ear, out the other ear.
Right.
So it's something that is pretty common, just like you said, just amongst people in general.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, even people would say like, because you get breast reconstruction when you get a mastectomy, you get your boob amputated off,
Mhm.
you know, and then they reconstruct it. And I've had so many people be like, "How big are you gonna go?" You know, or like, "At least you get a free boob job." It's like,
Oh,
but it's
like people you
not
don't know. Like I could see like a close friend like joking
people
around, like
I
adding some
don't
humor.
know.
Humor. Oh
People I don't
God.
know. I remember
Oh
going
my God.
being in a store and running into like an acquaintance, and that's what they said to me, you
You think
know, and
that's
it's like
nervousness though? Like they don't know what to say, and then they probably leave that, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I said that."
it is. It definitely, and that's I mean, I put a lot of that into perspective. Like people are very uncomfortable, but that's also I like made it my mission to like keep it going, like keep
Yeah.
making them uncomfortable so that they remember this moment and like
Oh,
that
you
wasn't
did? So
okay.
you
Oh
pushed
yeah,
back and kind of like, what did you say?
I would just be like, I'm pretty passive aggressive. Or if I say I have breast cancer, you know, people always will look at my tits. Like, you know, I mean, it's like, oh, I had breast cancer last year. And they're like, it's like, I'm up here, you know, like they're still there, I guess.
People are so,
Um,
as a species, we're so flawed. We
yeah,
really
we
are.
really
Like
are.
there,
Yeah.
and that's probably also like in your position. I bet you've learned to be a lot more compassionate. I know as I'm like getting older, I try to lead more with compassion and
Yeah.
empathy opposed to just like anger or getting offended, because people do they do people do stupid shit, they really
Yeah, they
do, and
do.
their lack
They
of
do.
there's a lot of people that are they're not self-aware, and the more the older I get, the more I realize we're just all on this rock together trying to do the best that we can,
Yeah, we
and we
are. We are.
and we're all struggling in some way, so
Yeah,
it's
definitely. And
yeah.
I know I like recognize that people get very uncomfortable with the idea, but like we should be able to have these conversations
Yeah.
about breast cancer, and I should be able to say titty in a sentence and you not feel weird about it. Like I should be
I
able
could
to
laugh
like
though, right? If you said
yeah, you could
titty.
totally laugh.
Okay.
But we should be able to like go back and forth, and because the
Yeah.
issue really is that we think that breast cancer or cancer in general, that it's not going to happen to us, and it can happen to anybody, obviously. And also it's important to like talk about cancer in general and how it can happen to other people. I think we get so stuck in this like idea that it only happens to older people,
I know.
and and the breast cancer in general, it happens to men too.
Mm,
It's a lower percentage, but like we don't talk enough about that men can get breast cancer.
yeah.
And and it makes me sad actually, because it's like we focus so much on the women, and women need to check themselves and do self breast exams, and it's very female focused because it's more prevalent in women, but men get it too.
Hmm.
Like you can have a BRCA gene, men can have a BRCA gene.
I was talking with one of my close friends, and there's like, I would say five of us that are just really, really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just in the conversation. We were just thinking like, all right, like which one of us is it gonna be? Like
Mm-hmm.
we were just talking about this. We're like,
Yeah.
no one's had a no one's had a health thing. Like, which one of us is it gonna be? Because the statistics, it's gonna be one of
Yeah.
us. I mean,
Yeah.
who is it gonna be? And then we started talking about who we thought it was gonna be.
Oh no.
I won't get into that, but we started talking about it. But it is such a real thing. So an ex-girlfriend of mine um actually had stage 4 cancer. And this was like it was in like 2020. I was going through, and she's not going to mind me talking about this because I spoke with her and I let her know that you were going to be
Mm-hmm.
on. So, because we talk, and
Mm-hmm.
so she won't mind me discussing her story a little bit, but I was on Facebook, and then like a GoFundMe popped up, and it was from my ex-girlfriend, and I was like,
Oh
what the
wow.
fuck? Like I was like late at night,
Mm-hmm.
and we hadn't talked in a while, and so I like shot up out of bed. I was like, what? And,
Mm-hmm.
like I had to do like a double take. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I just saw the GoFundMe logo and all that stuff, and then I saw
Yeah.
a picture and all that, and I was like, oh my god. Like, so I didn't really know what to like. I didn't like, should I contact her? Should I not contact her? Because we hadn't really been talking that much at that point. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I ended up contacting her mom because she's married, and I just didn't want to like cause, when you just like don't want to add any more stress to the
Yeah.
person. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to add any more stress. So I just contacted her mom, and we exchanged a couple messages. And so I kept an eye on things, and um, we started messaging and talking, and she was kind of filling me in. And so as of June, I mean, her cancer got so bad that, I mean, she had to go through chemo and
Mm-hmm.
lost all of her hair. The doctors gave her like a 15% chance to live,
Oh
not
wow.
to live for 5 years. Like a
Oh
15,
wow.
like, yeah. So I mean, it was
Yeah.
stage 4. It was in the lymph nodes.
Oh
And
wow.
so she went through the whole process, and she was even like making videos because she has a son.
Hmm.
So she was making videos to for her
Wow.
son.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so but she went through everything and she actually beat it.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so like as of June, she'll be 4 years in remission,
That's awesome.
which is
That's
wild. So I
huge.
it's insane. And so I remember talking to her, and I was like, do you get like irked if you hear people like talking about their problems, like about their just
Hmm.
everyday problems that people have? And she goes, like it's so different when you've gone through something like this. When you've gone
Yeah.
through something like this, you just, you don't realize, or people don't
Different.
realize how good that they
Yeah.
have it. And so that
Yeah.
was always something that stuck with me when she said that, and kind of that perspective to see things
Yeah.
differently. Like I don't want, and for anyone to that listens, like it's good to not have a crisis
Right.
make you shift your
Right. Right.
perspective
Right.
in the way that you look at things. I tend to look at things pretty positively anyways. Like it's part of my job, it's part of my lifestyle. Like
Right.
if going through something, I tend to go through it, suffer when I'm suffering. I do it pretty quietly. I don't like to really talk about it when I'm going through it.
Yeah.
But then when I overcome it, that's kind of when I talk about it and I like
Right.
share my experience in hopes that
Yeah.
people can learn from it, because it's not realistic to never go through anything. Like
No,
you're
not at
going to
all.
go
Not at
through
all. And
stuff.
one, like, if you something happened to you that was like really hard for you to get through, it like doesn't mean that like one person's situation is more effective or harder or more traumatic than the other. Like, that's another thing too. Like, I when I was going through breast cancer, I had friends that were going through some like pretty heavy shit themselves. And it never like occurred to me that like my situation was like more important than their situation. But
Mm.
I couldn't necessarily give them all the space that they needed because like I needed to go through, what I needed to do too. So it's like also back to like having the tight friendships. It was like some of my friends that I'm still friends with that was going through their own stuff when I was going through my stuff. It's like we both went through different situations that year and it made us different. And now we still have stayed friends of it. Some other people, maybe it changed them differently. And now they're not in my life anymore because I'm going in a different direction because of my experience. Like, I never, that's why I post on social media too, though, is because I want my perspective to not only reach people that have been through breast cancer, but like anything. Like I want it to like relate everybody to relate to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you get stuck with something that is going to like be really traumatic and hard and you have to change everything that you're doing to get through it, like that can go for a lot of things. I
Absolutely.
mean,
That's like the resilience of getting through hard situations. I
right.
feel like the most amount of resilience comes through going through those hard experiences, and
Hmm.
that it's almost like scar tissue. Like it builds
Right.
you go through an
Yeah.
experience, it builds you. Go through health issue, builds you. Go through breakup, builds you. Your house burns down, like all of these bad things that happen in
Right.
life. Because I mean, it's gonna
Yeah.
happen. It either
Right.
just happened or it's gonna happen. We're all gonna go through
Exactly.
different things. Those are the things that shape you, and you could either then come out of it a better person, a more experienced, more enlightened, you see
Hmm.
things differently, more positive, or kind of like we were talking to in the beginning, where people just wallow and they take in that
Hmm.
energy and it defeats them, because there are people that get defeated, and the
Yes.
mind has so much to
Yeah.
do with a lot of
It's
different things.
yeah, that goes back to the collecting. Like as you grow, you'll go through a bunch of different experiences, good and bad. And if you collect all those bad experiences, it's going to make you sick.
Yeah.
It's going to make you depressed.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to get out of bed. And that you're also creating this like energy around you that isn't, it's going to make you stuck. It's going to make you, period. It's just going to make you stuck. And I see that in a lot of people that go through hard things where they didn't expect it, and you want to like almost shake everything out of
Yeah.
them and be like, you can get through it, stop holding on to this, like it's okay to like sit in it for a minute, but you have to go through it
Were there
regardless.
any
You
tools or resources that you used while you were going through this, and maybe even something that you came across that you never did before?
um just no, I went to therapy. So
How'd that work
that
for you?
that helped me. That went through, you know, my that was one of the first things I did actually, because my therapy is usually going on the mats and doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu because I like to
Yeah.
get all my aggression out that way. And I
That's your
couldn't do
preferred
that.
form of fitness, right? Brazilian
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu?
yeah, it is. Yeah. So I couldn't do that. So like that got taken away. That was my outlet. So the first thing I did was get a therapist, and she had me do a lot of like inner work, like journaling, worksheets, like, you know, positive things on my mirror, just talking mantra saying to me. She also forced me to like take accountability for like how angry I was, because that was my first emotion, is like I was grieving and I was mad at myself. Like I did it. Like I gave myself cancer. Um, and
What do you mean take
she
accountability? What does she mean by that for your
she
anger?
like to feel like what brings you back to like what was the another time in my life where I felt like this, and like working through that. So a lot of the times that when we like respond or react in certain ways, it's not because in this moment that's what's upsetting us. It's like something from the past that maybe we never worked through that gave us that same emotion. So she
Did you
like
find
made,
that? Did you find what that
oh,
was?
yeah, so it was like a plethora of childhood things and just being sick in general. I mean, when I was first had cervical cancer, I like blamed everybody else. Like who, like I was like, that wasn't because of me. Like it was like my life choices and like things I was doing, and you know, I didn't take accountability for anything when I was young. So she just really made me do that. And then, you know, during that time, I was also going through some other things. Like I left a jujitsu gym and I started a new one, and it was like a really dramatic situation. So I
Was
like,
it
oh God, it was so dramatic.
JiuJitsu Drama? I'm interested.
Oh,
What was that about?
you're a I was at a gym, and the guy that ran it was, I asked a question during it and he like went off on me, and then I just decided,
Jeez.
yeah, during that time in my life, I like didn't, when things didn't go the way I wanted, I would just not respond and give it energy. And then I was like an infamous ghoster. Like I would just be like, "Oh, see ya," you know, like I'm not gonna deal with this. Um, I'm not like that anymore. Now I'm an adult. I talk
Mhm.
about things, but I had left that, and there was a lot of drama surrounding that with like the wife harassing me, and
Oh wow.
the owner talking shit about me, and it was jujitsu
Who
drama.
knew? Who knew
I
jujitsu was
know.
so juicy?
Yeah. So that gym is in the past.
Yeah. That's one of
And
those situations where it's like, I'm just not gonna go back here. I've had
right,
gyms
right,
where I've gotten into it with people or people that work there or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, you leave and you go,
right.
yeah, I know I'm never going back there again.
Right. And I'm not gonna have a conversation about like
Yeah.
why I'm mad. Like I'm just gonna stop paying you and I'm
Yeah.
gonna bounce. Like it's cool. But and that was another thing, like when I got diagnosed, they reached out to me They were like, we don't
Really?
never want anything bad to happen to anybody that we used to be, and da 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 da. We're so sorry to hear
Yeah,
you. And it's
right.
like,
They were the ones who had a voodoo doll after you left and were doing
yeah,
these like
I'm like,
dances around the voodoo doll,
yeah,
cursing
but
you.
that makes them sleep better at night, like
Yeah,
making
right.
sure they're telling me that they hope I'm okay. So I let them have it. I just said, thank you. But yeah, but I don't even know. I lost track of what we
Well,
were.
so I'm curious to know, like, what was the recovery process like? And I mean, once you got through it, what like truly matters in life, like specifically, like because I
Okay.
think that's the stuff I think hearing that from your perspective for anyone who's maybe going through this or just something could really learn
Yeah.
from like like what truly matters to you.
Well, the recovery time was like 8 weeks. I couldn't work or use my arm.
Oh
Like,
God.
yeah. So no, like
We
I
just
could after 4 to 6 weeks, I think I could reach for things, but I like couldn't like lift anything heavy.
yeah.
Um, and then I did physical therapy, and then I slowly started. My doctor would let me like go to jujitsu and just like do technique stuff, but not spar, or like uh do minimal working out, like to movement. Because I went from going to the gym like 6 days to like nothing.
Which for
Um,
people who don't go to the gym, that's significant. The gym is
yeah,
not just
yeah,
a big part of your life, but it provides you with just release from everything. It brings you
right.
so much joy, especially when you're really into something. So, like
Oh
for me,
yeah,
it's bodybuilding. For you, it's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
once you find your preferred version of fitness, it's something that if you don't do it, you start to suffer. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where I could see where something like that would start to wear on your mind. Like 1 week, okay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're starting to
yeah.
atrophy, have all these different,
Right.
watch your
It's
hard work go away. Think, am I going to get back to this? Am
exactly.
I like
Yeah.
how hard is this going to be
Yeah.
when I get back?
And like
So that's like a big deal.
I think I gained only like 5 to 7 pounds, which is like not a lot, but like for someone that's tiny, it looked like you can notice it, I
Yeah.
guess. And people at work were telling me like, "Oh, you gained weight. You look so much healthier." Like, and it's like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's one of
But
those again, that's one of those human things where it's like, should we really be commenting on other people's weight?
right.
Like unless
Yeah.
someone asks, like I've had people like ask, like, hey, can you assess me? Like, other
Oh,
words, I'm not
yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about someone's weight. Like I've been
No.
in so many scenarios where it comes up. I'm not talking about somebody's weight or their physique or making comments on their
Right.
appearance. You just don't
Right.
do that.
And you're not telling me I look healthy, like what? Like, yeah. But so I did physical therapy. I went back to work. I actually ended up getting frozen shoulder from like not doing the move, being able to move it. So basically, I don't know if you're familiar with frozen shoulder, but like
Yes.
yeah, so it just like locked up.
Mhm.
So I had to go to like pretty intensive physical therapy where he literally forced my arm to move and like would hold it in that position. And so I had to do that for like 10 months to get
Wow, that's a
my
very
range of,
long time.
yeah. So my range of motion, like, well, I went through like three physical therapists because no one could figure out what it was, and like a million doctors because nobody would like say that it was frozen shoulder. It was very weird. But I'm like just starting to get my range of motion like back 100%. It still gets pretty stiff. Like if I don't stretch after jujitsu, I'm not going to be able to move my arm the
Are
next
you doing
day.
any lifting? Because I did see you at the gym not
I
not
was
that long
doing,
ago.
yeah, I was doing it, but now that I do, I go to jujitsu like
Okay.
so many days a week. I haven't had it in me yet to like also lift, but I'm gonna start lifting again because I'm paying for a gym membership.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Well, let
So
me
I
know if you
need,
ever want to get a lift in sometime.
yeah, I would be totally down to do
Hell
that
yeah.
because it's easier for me to be motivated too if I have somebody to like make me more accountable, like a gym partner, because that's why I like jujitsu so much because it's so like small and family, like all my friends on the mats are going to hold me accountable and make sure that I come, and they're going to talk shit to me if I don't show up. So I'm going to be there,
Be
you
like
know?
texting you, where are you at?
Yeah, seriously. um, but so yeah, so it was a pretty long recovery. Like I would say that I just got back to being full time, being able to do jujitsu in I think August. So
How
it'll be
good did
my
that feel?
awesome. It kicked my
Yeah,
ass, but it was awesome.
I know that feeling
Yeah.
after coming in after a long break when you're
Yeah.
forced to take something, when you're forced to take time off. And well, first off, it's not like woohoo, like it's more like it hurts, like things don't feel the same. Like
Right.
you
Yeah.
have to put in work to just even
Yeah.
get muscles to activate again, to just get,
Oh
get
yeah.
back to where you are.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of
And
work,
your
but
cardio, you're like,
oh yeah, you're just out of shape.
yeah. Because like when I was lifting, like I wanted to keep my strength, you know, but like it didn't do. I mean, jujitsu is a full body workout. It's like a full, like you're dead
Hmm.
afterwards.
Hmm.
And that's why I like it so much too.
Hmm.
But I with the two-part question, so and then things that I look at differently
Or
is
things
like
that truly matter to you, like
truly
things
matter to me.
that like what matters in life, because like this is something we could all learn from. I mean, we all focus on why aren't I here yet? Why aren't I at this level? Why can't I have this? Why do these people get like there's so much of that dialogue that
Yes,
goes on in
yes,
life. So like taking a lesson from someone who has been through something like you have, I think everyone could benefit from hearing that. Like what truly matters.
yeah. I think what truly matters for me and through all this experience is like being in the moment. We like don't do that enough. And like recognizing little things and like being appreciative of that. Like even something so silly as like I was able to sit down for 5 minutes this morning and drink my coffee and read a book. You know, like it's like appreciating like the small things in life that we take for granted. Um, and also, I think being kind to your body, because I, we all look in the mirror and we were like, could want to change something about ourselves. But like, I took that for granted. I took for granted I had all of my body intact the way that I looked. I always thought that my boobs were like so small and like I didn't like how I looked in certain shirts. And it's like, what was I thinking? Like, I should love my body for exactly what it is, what it's capable of. And it also got me through breast cancer. Like, it, my body did that. Like, my body helped me heal. My body was able to recover from something that was like a massive surgery. My body was like, is the one that's telling me when I need to slow down. Like, I need to listen to that. And that is like something that a lot of us probably don't do. I never did it until this
I think
situation.
what you're saying is one of those things that people don't think about until something really bad
Yeah.
happens. Like that's the perspective shift right there. Everything
Yeah.
that you just said,
Yeah.
because we do take things for granted. I think that's human nature. We don't live in the present moment. That's becoming human nature. We're
Mm-hmm.
always
On the
hypercritical.
next.
I mean, I can't tell you
Yeah.
how many times I've looked in the mirror and dissected every part of my body going, this is not good. We need to
Yeah.
work on this. Let's improve
Yeah.
this. Like all of these
Yeah.
things where that perspective shift when you go through something, let's just say it. I mean, that's catastrophic. Something
Yeah, for
life
sure.
changing forces you to think like my body did that. Like I
Right.
did that. Like
Right.
what that this body that I have, which we only have one body, which is why health is so important. My body was capable of this and my mind was capable of this and the two work together. So I think I, what you touched on is like, yeah, just cut that out, put it on a
Right.
bumper sticker.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
just
We're just
so
so
valuable.
hard on ourselves. Like,
We really are.
We're so hard on ourselves. And it's like, it's even like something so little. Like if you are lifting, like you go to the gym, you work out, maybe it is a gym day for you, but you wake up and you have some aches and pains. Most people ignore that and just push themselves and go to the gym. But like maybe you should sit down and like relax and do something that you love that is like therapeutic, or read a book, or watch a TV show. Like it's okay to
Well,
be
that depends.
lazy.
And that depends on your goal. So that depends what you're going for. So like for me as a bodybuilder, I'm like, I need to push it to, I like to toe that line and push it to
Yeah.
the point where it's like, okay, now I need to back off. But if not, then I'm going to, I'm going to
Yeah.
push that
Yeah.
threshold. But for someone who maybe it's, health, wellness, their physique is not the end all be all. They're not
Right.
trying to
It's a little
build as much
different for
muscle as possible.
bodybuilder.
Right.
A
It's a
little
little bit
different.
different when you're
Yeah.
when that's your goal. So I
Yeah.
think that, because I do think there's a time to step on the gas, but also there's a time to step on the brake as well.
Yeah.
And so being kind to your body. So like for me, that is still being kind to my body. Like I'm experienced and know what to do, but being kind to your body and being kind to your mind that's just something that we should all be doing. And
Yeah.
like, why are we so hard on ourselves?
I
Like
don't know. And
because there is a
we're
point where it's good. There is a point where it's good, because being hard on yourself, it's like, okay, I have a standard. If I'm not hard on myself, I'm not going to get anywhere. Being hard on
right.
yourself, but once
And
that becomes
yeah.
like a negative thing in your life, and you're becoming depressed, obsessive, and you're never happy. Like
Right.
that's what it is. Like I'm hard on myself, but I'm never happy. That's a very common thing.
Yeah, that is very common. I've realized too throughout this entire experience that I function better with structure too. So like I have those like set days that I go to jujitsu, and I go at 5 a.m. 3 days a week. And when my friends will be like, "Hey, do you want to get dinner on Monday?" I'm like, "I can't get dinner on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesdays because I go to 5 a.m. the next
Yeah.
day." Like I set like a standard for myself. But if I don't wake up and I like sleep in on Wednesday, I'm not going to be mad at
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
But I might do something else, some other movement. Like maybe I'll take the dogs for a walk, or, do something else to like, so that I'm still moving, but I'm not going to like hate myself for not
Which is
waking up
healthy,
in the
right?
morning.
That's of
Yeah.
course. So how has fitness played a role in your recovery and just in your life in general? I have to imagine it's helped you recover quicker, it's helped you recover more successfully, and it's been just a really almost like necessary tool in your
Yeah.
toolbox for getting through
It's
this.
been
Like,
huge. I think
yeah,
that, I mean, one of the things when I found out that I had cancer, I was like, am I not going to be able to go to jujitsu? Like that's because I looked forward to doing that. Um, and then not being able to do that really messed with my brain. It made me sad, depressed. I could see my friends doing it and I wanted to be there with them, but that's why I joined the gym. I eventually was like, which I was always like, I don't want to say anti, but like I just was like, gyms are not for
were
me.
you? Tell me why. Because I've been going to gyms forever, and they are the weirdest places you could ever walk into. I don't know that there's ever an atmosphere as unique and as unusual as a gym. Any gym.
Yeah,
Throw a rock,
yeah,
pick a gym. They're
yeah,
all weird.
definitely. They really are.
Yeah.
I just never like I always attributed like lifting weights to like being buff, like really buff.
Meatheads.
And
Meatheads.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I just never really felt like that was a place that I fit in. But also like I don't really fit into jujitsu either. Like I am a tie-dyeing social work hippie that like fights people. So it's like, but they accept me for who I am and my weirdness. But like it's like I just never felt like I fit in.
But
And
isn't
I
that the stigma behind like fitness and gym? So like even like for me, I know exactly what you're saying. Like being a
Mhm.
bodybuilder, like there's this stereotype like all I think about is chicken and I'm a meathead and weights and there's no
Macros.
thought behind all this. And
Yeah.
it's that I mean, I find fitness to be like many things. And I feel like it's a form of self-improvement. And I think everyone should be doing something. It's you have Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I have bodybuilding. Another person might have yoga. That's their thing.
Yeah.
Another person might have running or whatever, just regular exercise. I think every person should be doing some form of fitness. And then once you click with a certain form, it starts to add so much value to your life in terms of the way that you feel, the way that you
Yeah.
show up in life, whether it's your job, whether it's your relationships. You're healthier, you're more alive,
Hmm.
you're clearer, you just become a better version of yourself
You're like
by
more grounded.
absolutely. So,
Yeah.
but if there is a stereotype to it all, and there is this like the gym and just meatheads, or even like you said, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and a certain type of person, but people are multifaceted and the stereotypes. I mean, yeah, you get that. I'm not saying you
Yeah.
don't go in there and you don't see that. I mean, you go in there, you do see that stuff,
You
but
do
not
see
everyone's
all walks
like
of
that.
life.
And the cool
Yeah.
thing about it is like wherever you're going, these little communities and gyms, like everyone is there working on themselves to
Yeah.
some degree. And so it is a great way to meet people. I can't tell you how many people I've met. I mean, I've met close friends, I've met girlfriend, I've met so many
Yeah.
people in
Yeah, that's
gyms.
true. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some of my like good friends are I met through jiu-jitsu, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't know them if I didn't like go to certain gyms and try it out.
So how did you get into tie dyeing? Because I know that it's not your main job, so it's but it sounds like it's maybe turning into a job. So
Yeah,
I'd
I
love to hear about that.
it was actually my COVID hobby. I was very bored working from home constantly, staying home, not being able to go out in the field and see people. And I just started like tie-dyeing for friends, and then I would post it on social media, and then people would request things, and then it just like spiraled. Um, my tie-dye is very different than most tie-dye. I don't know if you've checked out my page, but it's kind of like I wanted to create a company that wasn't or a hobby because it didn't start off as a company,
Mm-hmm,
but I
mm-hmm.
wanted to create a space where it's not just for like the spiral hippie
Sure.
tie dye. It's kind of like an all over color. And then I like to pick different color combinations. And then I also don't just do like sweatshirts. I buy from like wholesale retailers, like female clothes, like dresses and shorts and tank tops and things like that. And
Did it start
dye
by you
that.
just doing it for you because you wanted stuff to wear?
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
so cool. I
yeah,
love stories like this.
I was looking up like certain tie dye. I wanted to buy tie dye, and it was like all hippie or like very commercial looking.
I
Like it was
remember
like
like
none of
Greenfield. Do
that.
you remember the place in the mall,
Yes,
Greenfields, where you would go
yes,
in there and like there would just be like paraphernalia all over the place and then tie
yes.
dye?
The random
Yeah.
tie dye. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to like, I wanted something different, like something
Yeah.
like boutique-y. And then so I just did it. And here we are. And I named it after my grandma and my great aunt, Millie Byrd. That's where that comes from.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's weird and it's different. My goal was to like make it like a full on boutique and a tie-dye boutique, but I just never really like got that far. But really I just like to do
So
tie-dye
do
anyway.
you have like an online shop then and then someone will place an order and you will like how does that work? Like you
So
do you have
I
them already made or do you custom make them
They're
or how does
already
that work?
made.
Okay, gotcha.
I During the holiday I did like a custom Grinch tie-dye set. Yeah, I took pre-orders. Um, but everything is made. I quit doing customs because it was like taking away from like my creativity. I felt like
Mm,
I was like it was kind of draining for me. I felt like I was just like creating other people's art and
yeah.
I didn't like resonate with
It's
it.
more of a product then.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I stopped doing customs and now I just tie dye it and it's on my website. all my dyes. And then I do markets. So I do hunt and gather um, every year. I don't know if you've ever heard of that market.
I don't know what that market is, but I know like all the home shows and all of,
yeah.
the place where you go and you set up a booth or whatever and you have
Yeah.
your
So
boutique
that's what I
stuff up. Okay.
do. Yeah. So I do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Um, I I only do like a few markets because it's kind of a lot for my body now, like doing those. It's a lot of work. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. So
Yeah.
I really try to focus on my social media and then online. So my Instagram is pretty much like where I get most of my sales.
And I'll put your Instagrams up here so everyone can see and go look. And if you want
Awesome.
a tie-dye shirt, you could go to the link and I'll include
Yeah.
all that. I'll also include a link in the description. I'm also going to put a couple links in the description too, because my friend that I was telling you about that had stage 4 cancer, she also gave me a couple resources that she said that were helpful for her. So
Awesome.
I'm going to include those. There's a podcast and some other information and a website. I'm going to include those in the description as well in case anybody wants to go and check that out. But
Yeah, that's
is
awesome.
Jess, is there anything else you want to promote? I'll have your Instagram up there, but anything people can be on the lookout for? I mean, the floor is yours if you want to promote anything else.
I mean, I'll be at Hunt and Gather in March. Come check out Millie Byrd in person.
All right. Where is Hunt and Gather? Is that
It's at the fairgrounds,
okay?
Lake County
So
Fairgrounds
gotcha.
in Crown
Crown
Point.
Point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever live anywhere else, or is Crown Point? Have you always been in Crown Point?
I lived in Florida for like a hot minute.
Really? How
It was
was
like
that?
it was like I put my feet in the soil for a couple days when I
Dip
moved
your
back
toes in the
home.
water. Those Florida waters.
Yeah. But no, I pretty much been in Crown Point my whole
What did
life.
you like? What brought you back? Opposed, like, what didn't you like about Florida that brought you back to
I loved
Indiana?
Florida. I just wanted to go back to school. I wanted to go to school. I moved like right with when I turned 20, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I
Gotcha.
wasn't there for long. I moved with Carrie. Me and
Okay.
Carrie packed our car and I had like $200 in my bank account and I was like,
That's
moving to
so cool. That's like an
Florida.
adventure.
Yeah, it was an adventure.
Yeah.
While we lived there, we moved like 4 times and it was just a lot. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lot.
I think it's
So
good to move around for a while.
yeah,
I've
it was,
lived in different places in different cities and I'm
it's
glad I
so,
did it, but
yeah, it's so crazy because I moved with no money and I would never do that now.
now you mean you would
I was
never do that now?
I was so impulsive back then. Now I'm like
Yeah. Things are different when you're
such a
younger.
planner. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Like,
things are so different. Well, Jess, I really appreciate you coming on and being so open and honest and
yeah, thanks for
vulnerable
having
and
me.
having this conversation. I think that learning from someone who's gone through something like you have is something that everyone can take a
Yeah.
lot away from. I know I did, and I do my best to have proper perspective. And when I think about perspective, there's a lot of things under this umbrella. It's not just being positive, but also thinking like, you know, what
You
we
can do it.
have
Yeah.
and what we have, not what we
Hmm.
don't have. And
Yes.
that I really don't want it to take something life changing, like losing a family member or having a disease or getting in an accident to have that shift. It's okay to
Right.
have that shift when things are good. That's the time to have it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's why I really wanted to have you on, and I immediately thought of you. So thank you again for
Thank
coming on. I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
You're welcome. All right, Jess, we'll talk soon. You ever want to get that lift in, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.